And we are live. Look at that. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mysteries After Dark. I am your host, Jerry, at least I hope. Huge shout out to Diane for her tarot card reading this evening. And I do not know how the heck that kind of stuff works, but hey, if she does, that's good enough. There's people out there that understand it. I'm just not one of them. It's really cool, though. I just don't know how to, understand what they say. You flip them over, it's a picture. I don't know. There's some kind of extra magic at work there that she has the ability to understand, or tarot card readers do. I don't. I wish I did. It seems really interesting. It seems really fascinating. So we would like to thank her very much for doing that for us. And we need to, we need to turn that into like a weekly thing. So I will occasionally be getting quiet for just a half of a moment while I take a quick drink or clear my throat. We had a big old fire break out here the other day, and I think it's still kicking my butt a little bit, but what do you expect? It's the Midwest. We can have 80-degree weather, sunshine, blizzard, and fires all in the same day. All we're missing is earthquakes, I think. I don't know. And we don't want those. I need to find something made out of wood to knock on. I don't know about you, but, these weather people, I wish they could get the story straight. You listen to one of them, they say, hey, it's going to be a mild winter. No, don't worry. Everything's going to be just fine. Then you turn to another channel and, oh my God, Snowmageddon. It's the end of the world. All right. So we're going to get into it tonight. It's going to be a little bit of a longer one, but I'm going to talk kind of fast and hopefully get us through it, somewhat quickly with attention spans being what they are. And I'm guilty of that myself, I guess. So, hey, there's that. Excuse me. So, we have people that propose religion, angels, demons, gods from antiquity. Those were really visitors from other worlds, either from outer space or parallel realities, universes. And to some, the thought of life from elsewhere, it seems comical. They believe that we are the only life there is in the universe. Others think that, we may have extraterrestrial life, but it's not advanced, or that maybe one, technologically developed species per galaxy, could arise, but that's about it. Something that's often touted from, what's his name? Brian Cox. Smart guy, genius. Love listening to him. So now we have academia telling us that parallel realities exist, that, there's a very high probability of this, that, these, and in addition to the parallel realities, that higher dimensions, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and a dimension is just kind of a right line or a right angle to our reality. Think of, draw a stick figure, word 3, just draw a right angle. You can't do it in the 2-dimensional. It needs to be above that or beyond that. And that would be the 3-dimensional. Then the fourth, even though we can, hypothesize or ponder what it might look like, you really don't know. But essentially, it's another angle. It's, another depth, so to speak. So with the scientific community coming on board with all of this, my question is, why won't they also consider the possibility that those realities, those worlds, those universes could host life, or that we could have been visited by inhabitants of those planes of existence? Right here in this reality, let's call it, our universe, we are finding thousands of exoplanets in the Goldilocks zone. Many of them have the ability to host life. We have moons right here in our solar system, our, proverbial backyard, and it seems highly likely and very compelling that they host life forms of some types. So, Enceladus, Europa, possibly Titan. And Titan, that one kind of fascinates me with the methane, or for my Brit friends, methane. That would be kind of an interesting life form to look at. But heck, they've been finding some new studies just came out with Venus. And they're saying there could be life there of all places. So speaking about life on other worlds, we found a planet labeled k2-18b, and it's been in the headlines as of late. The James Webb Space Telescope was able to observe its atmospheric composition and found the following. And again, I did comment on this in a past episode. They found hydrogen, water vapor, more importantly, dimethyl sulfide, which is only produced by life. There is nothing else that creates this molecule. And, I did. Hey, Diane chimed in. Hello. And like I said, I did talk about this on a past episode, but it turns out some other very interesting molecules were discovered. And I didn't know about it at the time, or I didn't catch it, I guess you'd say. And I do not understand why this isn't making headline news. It turns out that they discovered chlorofluorocarbons. They're referred to as CFC. CFC. Back in the 80s, this was a big deal. We were warned about this product. It was used in things like hairspray, welding produces lots of, petrochemicals, things like this produce this. And back in the 80s, it was the big fear that it was going to destroy our ozone and the ultraviolet lights were going to kill everybody. Aside from CFC, we also found nitrogen dioxide. And again, along with CFC, nitrogen dioxide is a technosignature. These chemicals, these molecules are only produced by civilizations that utilize, fossil fuels, refined petroleum, manufacturing, and as I mentioned, even welding. And on that, topic of technosignatures, we are now scouring the universe for those. We are actively seeking technosignatures, products that can, only be created by an advanced intelligent species. And on that on that planet k2-18b, we have in fact discovered technosignatures. Avi Loeb and many others are coming out now saying that we need to look at Mars, we need to look at the moon for remnants, for craft, for items, materials produced by civilizations that could have crashed into those. And because they're not as geologically active as Earth is, we should readily be able to find them. And I think we have. But again, that's probably a topic for another episode. I know I've mentioned it in a past one. So here's where things get interesting. This planet I'm speaking about, k2-18b, it's 120 light years away. That means its inhabitants, whatever's there, they have been using products, manufacturing that produce these chemicals for no less than 120 years. And more likely, since the concentration of these molecules were high enough to be detected, they've probably been in use for decades, maybe centuries, prior to that 120-year mark. Just so you know, it takes the light 120 years to reach us. So when we observe its atmospheric composition, it is as it was 120 years ago, not currently. Now, as far as CFCs go, the first time in human history, at least modern human history, that we I guess, created it was in 1928. So this species, k2-18b, it would be as advanced as our species, using the scale, right? As advanced as our species will be in the year 2050 at the earliest. And again, they've probably been, they've had this technology for who knows how long. So they could be several hundred years more advanced than we are. But now there is another option. The life arose on that planet, blah, blah, blah. But really, the life on that planet doesn't necessarily need to be from that planet. It doesn't need to have evolved on that planet. It could be a colony. Now, and I know that might sound absurd. What do you mean colony? People, aliens are out there colonizing. Yeah, why not? Now that we know we are not alone, now that we have that, those papers, you know what I'm talking about, right? I'll get to that in a minute. But now that we know we are not alone, we have worlds of possibilities open to us. Perhaps we, the human species, are not originally from here. Maybe we ourselves are a colony. The great extinctions that took place could have been our own doing to clear the way for the species of our world to inhabit this one. Then, somewhere along the way, something catastrophic perhaps took place. And essentially, we are a species with amnesia. We lost that technology. Essentially, we forgot who we really are. Excuse me. So the question then becomes, could these other life forms be visiting us? And at this point, that question's rhetorical, isn't it? As I mentioned, we have the papers from the Defense Intelligence Agency stating they are here. We had the subcommittee hearing stating that we are here. We also had 2 hearings down in Mexico saying that, hey, they're here. So the real question we need to ask is this: how long have they been coming here? What interactions did they have with ancient humans? And, could Eric von Däniken, could he have been on to something when he published Chariots of the Gods? Could he have been right about ancient visitors helping mankind? We have architecture. We have, structures from around the world dating back thousands of years, much of which we cannot reproduce today. Precision that is unparalleled. And some of those feats that we can replicate, we've only had the ability to do so in the last few decades, utilizing modern equipment. Something else that's interesting, we have almost identical carvings and statues from across the globe. And the time frame for when these, sculptures, these paintings, these cave drawings, cave paintings, whatever, the time frame of when these occurred, these cultures were supposedly unaware of each other. Civilizations separated by oceans and, thousands of miles of land. We have prehistoric carvings from South America, Egypt, Turkey, ancient Mesopotamia, India, all of which depicting gods that look very similar. They're wearing the same type of attire. They're holding identical handbags, and they're all wearing what appears to be a watch. And I know that sounds crazy, a watch, but that's what it looks like. Now, supposedly, the people of South America were cut off from the rest of the world for about 10,000 years. So it is literally not possible that it was influenced by other cultures. That's what academia tells us. That's their story. So then, why do we have identical carvings of a 7-head or 7-tentacle-like creature from ancient Mexico, Siberia, and India, dating back several thousand years, when these cultures should have had 0 interactions? And those cultures, again, are separated by oceans and thousands of miles of land. Why does nearly every culture speak of flying ships and then depict those ships in nearly identical cave paintings and carvings? So let me ask you this: which one's more likely? Or let me say it this way. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Let me ask this. If a guy in America, China, Russia, and Australia, if they all draw a picture of the Statue of Liberty, is it more likely that they all spontaneously came up with this identical picture in their head at the same time? Or is it more likely that they all saw the Statue of Liberty? Which one seems more likely? Academia, the scientific community, archaeologists, they tell us that all these carvings, statues, cave paintings, petroglyphs, all of it is just coincidental. They say these cultures did not interact, and they all came up with identical art independently. And hey, you know what? I can accept that. But in accepting that, it means by default, these cultures, all of them witnessed the exact same things, and based upon their, independent observations, drew what they saw, interacting with, the exact same entities, things that ancient man perhaps referred to as gods. The Dogon tribe in Africa talks about Sirius B. They celebrate its rotation and somehow knew its orbit. Okay? They knew the orbit of Sirius B takes 50 years, and it has a very unusual elliptical orbit. And they were able to carve this into a stone thousands of years ago. And they had it just right. It's perfect. But it doesn't end there. This tribe also said that it is small, it is white, and it is heavy. It's made of very heavy material, they said. Well, it is a white dwarf. It is smaller than our sun, but it is equally as heavy. So all of this information was given to French anthropologist Marcel Griaule in 1931. The carving of the planet's orbit, or the sun's orbit, it's, as I said, this thing is hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years old. And somehow these people knew about it in 1931. So let me say this. Sirius B was discovered in the mid-1800s. So it is possible that someone could have, approached this tribe and said, hey, we got a star out there. Let me tell you all about it for no good reason. Yeah, that really doesn't seem likely, in my opinion. But, where the rubber really meets the road in this scenario is the fact that they did know it was a white dwarf. They did know about the orbit. They knew everything about the star that wasn't confirmed until 2005. Not until the Hubble telescope, until it turned its attention to the star. 70 years after, this tribe told Mr. Griaule everything about it. Was it finally confirmed for, our intellectual superiors? And the backstory is interesting because this tribe, it said that a civilization came to them many, many generations back from that star system. And these people taught them things. And that's kind of a common trend we hear about, the star visitors, the star people. They also said that there was a third star, which has yet to be discovered, but there is evidence pointing to the fact that there is just such a star. In 1995, we saw perturbation in Sirius A and B, indicating that there could in fact be a third star or a third heavy mass. I don't know, Dyson sphere maybe? Oh, I probably went too far, didn't I? You don't know what's going on. Now that we pretty much know that they're there, as I said, the door's open. So this tribe, this Dogon tribe, has an entire religion built around these visitors, and it appears to date back to perhaps as old as 3200 BC. Here in the United States of America, many native tribes, they worship or they celebrate the star people. We have the Hopi, the Zuni, the Cree, the Lakota, the Ponca, several other tribes. The Legend Rock petroglyph site clearly depicts a large-headed alien, and it is estimated to be between 6,000 and 11,000 years old, but it's not alone. We have dozens of petroglyphs from across the United States with the exact same large-headed creature. So then we come back to, that question of, is this all a coincidence? Because again, that's what academia tells us. Is it a coincidence that people in modern time are describing creatures from another planet? Barney and Betty Hill comes to mind. Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton comes to mind. But they describe these creatures that are identical to what people carved and painted thousands of years ago. I'm sure that's a coincidence. When it comes to this topic, I can't help but to notice the overwhelming coincidences, the mental gymnastics that academia must perform to accept quite literally any other possibility, including, I suppose, shared dreams or civilizations spontaneously coming up with exactly the same entities, even though, again, they're separated by vast distances. At this point, I'm willing to bet academia, they're probably more likely to accept some type of psychic phenomenon where all the minds of early humans, merged together, thought shared or whatever. I mean, guys, the answer is simple, but they're jumping through hoops, hoping it could be anything else. And, there's this thing that scientists, like to talk about. It's called Occam's razor. Kind of goes back to the Statue of Liberty comparison I gave earlier. The more likely answer is usually the right one. So I don't know. Are we prepared to accept mass mind, hive mind merging, whatever, or that these people all saw the same thing? So let's summarize all this. We have cultures from all over the world that supposedly never interacted, yet depicted the same objects, same entities, same craft, and telling us the same stories that they were visited. And some tribes have even created religions based on those visitations, based on those visitors, those craft. And if all of that seems a bridge too far, well, guys, we have examples right here in modern times. If you are having an issue accepting that primitive people saw craft or occupants and created a religion based on that, then let me mention the island of Vanuatu. You're going to like this. So during World War II, the inhabitants of this island, they saw cargo planes flying over their pretty little island. Then those planes dropped cargo and supplies for those tribes. Seems harmless, right? Nothing wrong with that. Well, those people began making wooden replicas of those planes. Some of them were life-sized, some miniature. They began making carvings and modern petroglyphs. They created an entire religion worshiping those planes, and in doing so, they believed that more gifts would rain down from the heavens. Eventually, some of those planes landed, and these tribes, they worshipped those pilots as gods, naming their children after them, even incorporating parts of the language from those pilots into their own. Many of those people would come up to you when you would land, and they would say, with a okay English accent, American accent, "Hi, I'm John from Florida. Hi, I'm Stephen from California." You get the idea, right? These people don't know anything about Florida. They don't know anything about California. They don't even know where the hell it is. But they knew it was a real place. They conveyed that. Eventually, the war ended, thank God, and the shipment stopped, tragically. These people, they thought that the gods were mad at them. These tribesmen engaged in the same activity we see from other ancient cultures attempting to please the gods. Some of these people carving the name of the kingdom of the gods upon their bodies. USA in big bold letters across their chest. These cargo cults, as they call them, they still exist today, 80 years after the war. And guess what? In 800 years, we're still going to have this religion. It's not going anywhere. They will talk about these gods and these craft, but think about this. Let's say 800 years, or hell, 1800 years go by and something's happened. We've lost flight, the technology to build spacecraft or airplanes, and we did actually lose the ability to build, craft that could take us to the moon. So this is it's a possibility. And what's going to happen when academia discovers these cargo cults in 1800 years, and they see these carvings of these planes and these sculptures, and these tribesmen talking about these gods that flew in the sky? They're going to get laughed at, guys. They're going to say, "You're silly. That can't be real." Doesn't that sound exactly like what's happening today? When you weigh all of the evidence, and let me tell you something, everything I've presented tonight, it's less than 1% of what's out there. It's about 1/10 of 1%. We have several television series that have ran for years. We have several documentaries and shows talking about, I'm going to say it, don't laugh, ancient aliens, ancient visitors, ancient technology. And amongst all those tens of thousands of hours that you can tune into on your television, that's not all of it. They're starting to scratch the surface, but they haven't covered it all. So is it possible that the majority of religions were brought to us? Either they passed their beliefs on to us, maybe what we see in Egypt, or perhaps our ancestors saw them and constructed a religion based upon what they observed. So there's a couple of religions. I don't know which one I want to touch on first. Let's go with Mormons. I like Mormons. I'm not a Mormon. But that said, I'm fascinated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They are very accepting of aliens. They actually believe that if you are a holy person, you live a good life, you will get to be the Mashiach, the Messiah, the Masi the Christ, for another planet, that you will go to another world with life on it and you will be their savior. So that is one religion that is very open to the possibility, or openly believes in extraterrestrials. What I find weird about that religion and another one I'm going to mention is that they're not open about it. You have to know someone to really find out, to really talk to them. Or you have to have someone that belonged, that left that belief and became, I wouldn't say whistleblower, but, someone that talks about it. The other, I think the right word to use is religion. That would be Scientology. I don't know. Movement, belief structure. I don't know, but it intrigues me. And again, I'm not a Scientologist either. I've known people who were. It wasn't a great relationship, and it ended. But it wasn't me. It wasn't anybody I'm related to. It's just somebody that I knew. So there are a few things, or probably a lot of things, we really don't know with certainty about this organization. But many past members have come forth to share their stories, and in my opinion, there's a very interesting backstory here. L. Ron Hubbard was in many ways inspired to create this theology by his interactions with science fiction writers, prominent names from the early 1900s, Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley. And for those of you that do not know, L. Ron Hubbard is, the founder of Scientology. And in his youth, he belonged to many cult groups. All of this is well documented. It's not a conspiracy. I'm not slandering the man. He was also a pretty good science fiction writer, by the way. He wrote some fascinating works, but some would argue that his most profound work of science fiction would be the story behind Scientology. So the things that I'm about to mention, you're actually not supposed to talk about. Those who have in the past, they have, suffered backlash. And I'm hoping that I can, skate under the radar here. Scientology, it ties some very unique beliefs into one unit. And I'm not really letting the cat out of the bag because Leah Remini has covered this. Both her and her mother belong to the church. Both of them achieved very high ranks within it. So eventually, after you've given enough money and you've been, checked out, meaning that you can keep a secret, you're taken to the special inner sanctum. I'm going to skip the boring parts, but it's an, arduous process from, when you walk in the door until you finally find your way back into this, secluded chamber to read these prolific writings. Excuse me. So it would appear that 75 million years ago, okay, we're just going to jump into it. An advanced species of alien led by Xanu came to planet Earth, and he had all of these spacecraft parked around volcanoes, and then, he killed everyone using a hydrogen bomb. I know. He dropped bombs on them. I don't have no clue why a species that would be thousands or millions of years more advanced than we are now, why exactly they would use hydrogen bombs is beyond my comprehension. They should have something beyond that. We already have the ability to produce antimatter bombs, which will be considerably smaller and do far more damage, but that's how the story goes. So this destruction is referred to as Incident 2 within Scientology. And y'all, it only gets stranger from here. So let me go back to something real fast. Aleister Crowley, utilizing occult rituals, claimed to have summoned an entity named Lamb, without the B, Lam. And the description of this creature very much parallels that of a gray alien. Whether or not that has any bearing, I still find it interesting that L. Ron Hubbard, who again was a fan of Aleister Crowley, incorporated aliens into this belief structure. Okay, so back to the story of Xanu. Hopefully I'm saying it right. He was like a galactic landlord. He was in charge of 76 worlds. Each of them averaged about 175 billion life forms, or human, or whatever. So the other landlord said, hey, Xenu, you have an overpopulation problem, and it needs to be resolved now. And this is where the story gets kind of sinister. He took 13.5 trillion, again, people, aliens, whatever you want to call them, cryologically froze them, then using these ships, which looked identical to a DC-8, and again, why are we using primitive spacecraft or primitive, I don't know, primitive aircraft, primitive weapons. The only thing I can think as to why he utilized those within this work is because at the time, this was the best we had. This was the most advanced. But the guy was a science fiction writer. He could have came up with something better. Talk to Gene Roddenberry. Anyway, so the story has a couple of different paths. And the one that seems to have the most substantiating evidence is he had these frozen bodies dumped inside the volcanoes, and then just to make, sure, good and well, that they were absolutely dead, after he dropped them into the volcanoes, he then released the hydrogen bombs. And this seems like, the more prevalent story, as I said. So the hydrogen bombs blew the spirits of these aliens through the atmosphere, and they were captured by these electronic traps that Xenu set. Xenu, the overlord here, he then took those spirits, I kid you not, this is what it says, to a 3D cinema-type movie theater, which gave these spirits false memories and made it so that they could never trouble Big Daddy Xenu again, okay? They're out of his hair. So all religions, all saviors are supposedly nothing more than implanted false memories from when these spirits were in this 3D movie theater. And after they left the theater, which, by the way, was right here on Earth, they began clumping and sticking together, thousands at a time. And they remained that way until the rise of humans. Apparently, the spirits of these aliens began attaching themselves to humanity, to human beings, and there are precisely 2,209, 2209 spirits per human. And you know, we can do some simple math, and I'm not going to, but guys, just keep in mind how much the population has increased in the last 40 years. Somebody needs to tell me how we still have exactly 2,209 alien spirits per human. You know, I'm not going to go down that road. So the job, the humble undertaking of Scientology is to free humanity from the false memories of these alien spirits. And in doing so, will allow us to reach some God-like level. These spirits, these alien spirits, they're referred to as, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, body thetans, abbreviated BT. In Scientology, they're willing to help you remove them. And by the time you reach level, there's levels within this belief structure. By the time you reach level OT8, you will be free and clear. But as with all things, it costs money to do this. Now, I imagine the prices have gone up over the years, but once upon a time, it was a minuscule price of about $330,000. And when you think about it, that's a steal if you get to become a god at the end of it, isn't it? Look at Tom Cruise. That guy, for, I don't remember which Mission Impossible movie it was, he learned to hold his breath for 15 minutes. The guy, he's not a spring chicken. He's not a young man. And he can flat out run for miles. He is in amazing shape. So maybe I need to hit the lottery, come up with $330,000 and get these damn BTs off me. I'm just saying. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying it's weird. That's all. But lucky for you tonight, I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to tell you how you can do it yourself. I'm going to save you $330,000. Make a donation, okay? No. You just have to talk to those spirits within your body. Maybe start with your thumb. There's probably a couple dozen there. But now to do this, you got to stick to the ritual. You need these objects, these holy items. I'm sorry, I'm just picking on you guys. I don't want no Scientologists busting down my door. I'm just having some fun here. Tom Cruise, stay away from me. I seen what you did in the movies. I don't want none of that. No. Basically, you take 2 soup cans, attach a string between them, and play that game where you got a buddy on one end, you hold the cans tight, and you talk, and the string carries the vibration to the other can. Yeah, you do that. You put one up to your mouth, you hold the other one by your foot, your toe, your thumb, and, tell the spirit it's time to go. You're getting evicted. We don't want you here no more. Pack your things, buddy. They need to depart from you. And that's gonna take care of it. Now, if you are a member of Scientology and you spend the extra money, you get a little bump. You see, they're going to hook a lie detector test up to you while you perform this act, just to make sure that you're getting them out. Guys, I have a polygraph machine. Again, I'm here for you. That's all I'm saying. That's all. So, hey, you know what? Maybe this is all real. Maybe some space opera really did play out 75 million years ago. I think the odds of that happening are pretty slim, but hey, crazy things do happen. And, they're not alone. Mormons are right there with them. And aside from all this, what I do consider to be a very real possibility is that ancient humans if nothing else, observed something in the sky thousands of years ago, and they tried to preserve that incident utilizing cave paintings, carvings, statues. Some of these tribes have very unusual religions and state that the reason for those religions is because of the people who came from the stars. Something else to consider is that the depictions of these star people often include some type of a helmet, a suit. They're carrying gear with them. Essentially, they depicted what humans thousands of years later, modern times, would need to wear when we venture into space. Many of these tribes also state that some of these craft made a low humming or buzzing sound, which is something that has also been described by people in modern times. And if we are to believe the Defense Intelligence Agency papers that came out, these craft are generating some type of an electromagnetic propulsion field. Now, I don't know if you have or have not. I have. If you haven't, give this a shot. Go to a power plant, go to a relay station where you see those huge transformers behind the barbed wire fence, and listen. Listen to them, guys. You're going to hear this low kind of a buzzing sound. And it's kind of what they describe. You know, why is it when these people have depicted or talked about the ships, they're so foreign. Okay? Let me explain what I mean by that. We can look at the Vimana from India. Nothing about those are aerodynamic. A lot of these craft that they've drawn that you can see on some of these cave paintings, they're not things that were flying in the sky 40,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. Yes, we have cave paintings over 40,000 years old of these craft, of these people. The only inspiration that our ancient ancestors should have had for flight would have came from animals that we have right here on Earth. You know, bats, birds, insects. If these craft are nothing more than the creation of, imaginative, primitive people, then these objects in the sky that they portrayed, that they depicted, they should have feathers and wings and things, look like a bird, look like a bat. But that's rarely the case. These things are blockish or cylindrical or disc. I don't know, maybe they were playing Frisbee 40,000 years ago. I don't know. But now that we have our government essentially saying that, hey, we're not alone. Now that the whistleblowers have, confirmed not only that they are here, but that they have been with us for a long, long time, guys, we need answers. Somebody needs to tell us what the heck's going on. I know it's never going to happen, okay? But we deserve answers. We should know what's going on. And I'm willing to say or to bet that some of those answers could be within these alien religions. And perhaps we need to take a serious look at what these stories from antiquity can tell us about what occurred on this planet. Just a thought. But, they won't. Academia loves that little box. All right, everybody. I would like to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Mysteries After Dark. I have been your host, Jerry. One more time, a huge shout out and thank you to Diane for providing another tarot card reading this evening. So awesome. I hope y'all did enjoy that. So until next time, everybody, be safe. Goodbye.